Okay, let's get started. Good day and welcome to the OLLI Exchange, where we update folks in the OLLI community about upcoming classes and events. With us today is Toby Klein, co-president of Temple Shalom in Fayetteville and also a graduate student at the University of Arkansas working on her PhD in public policy. Toby, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and thanks for agreeing to lead your class on the importance of Holocaust education for all. Wonderful. Toby, given OLLI's typical demographic, most of us understand the Holocaust as one of the most important and also horrifying events of the 20th century. However, just to be sure we all have a sense of the context of your class, could you take a little time here and tell us why understanding the Holocaust is so important today?
Absolutely. So what we've seen in recent studies is that my generation is actually losing memory of the Holocaust, that they have some of the highest levels of lack of knowledge of the Holocaust across the world even. Our students in Arkansas actually rank lowest in their knowledge of the Holocaust, with about 1 in 10 believing that the Jews actually committed the acts of violence instead of being the victims of the acts of violence and genocide at the hands of the Nazis. So what we're seeing right now is a spread of disinformation, a rise in anti-Semitism again, and a rise in misinformation about the Holocaust, if not absolute Holocaust denial. So it's incredibly important that we reaffirm the lessons that we've learned from such a monumentous event and continue educating ourselves so that we can continue educating the future generations about such an important event in the hopes that we will never come anywhere near such an event like that, mass persecution and mass genocide of a group of people like that.
Wow, thank you. It's interesting how quickly memory deteriorates, not just as we age, but also generationally too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you were thinking about that, when would that start? What age group do you think that would start at?
So with the recent legislation, we have students learning as early as 5th grade. So that's kind of our youngest that'll be learning about the Holocaust according to the legislation. But when it comes to Holocaust memory, we see that, as like you mentioned, as generations are further and further removed from the event, they're less and less likely to understand the full context of the Holocaust. So we see kind of two issues here of our survivors are passing away due to old age and due to natural causes. And we see that sometimes the generations that precede them have less of a working memory of the Holocaust, have less of that personal connection of knowing a survivor, of learning from one. So as we're further and further removed from the event itself, we find that misinformation tends to spread more, which is why we're really hoping that our younger students are going to be learning about it from an early age, so that by the time they get to adulthood, they haven't lost touch completely with an event that really shaped a generation and unfortunately shaped a lot of events in world history.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about, you mentioned the legislation in Arkansas. Tell us a little bit about what that involves and what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, so I was part of an incredible group of people who helped craft and put forth this legislation. And our goal is to make sure that our students receive equal access to quality education. We know that the Holocaust is an incredibly important topic, and we want to make sure that our legislators, and thankfully they agree, they understand the importance of Holocaust education. They understand the importance of educating our students on being more tolerant, on the dangers of, really from a fundamental level, it's the dangers of bullying on a large scale level. So the bill makes sure that we are teaching, we're being responsible educators, that we're teaching our students such an important foundational piece of history in the hopes that they will use that as an inspiration to make sure that our society never gets anywhere near such an event ever again. And we need to rely on our educators to help foster a next generation that's going to build an inclusive, more welcoming, more equal society. And we believe on a fundamental level that that starts with education, because we know that it's not just the Holocaust that they're learning about when they're taught about the Holocaust. They're learning about inclusivity. They're learning about the importance of diversity and tolerance and inclusion and the dangers of bullying. So we see this as one issue that's really a window into a much larger conversation about how to build a better world. And again, from our perspective, it really starts at an early age, and it starts in the classroom where students are naturally grouped together with educators they trust.
Very good. And thank you to you and the group who have proposed this legislation. What a wonderful idea. Oh,
Thank you.
good. So in teaching our demographic in an OLLI class, okay, I imagine you'd like to convey a lot of the things you've already said, but is there anything specific or anything that our demographic, our group of people could do to be helpful in this area that you can think of?
Absolutely. So when we talk to students, we find that their strongest memories and their strongest connections to the past are through people, are through their grandparents and their great grandparents. And so I know that a lot of the OLLI folks love to tell me about their grandkids and their great grandkids and some great nieces and nephews and all that kind of stuff. And I want to really empower them to share their knowledge of what it was like growing up in a time where the Holocaust was such a pervasive thing in their lives, where it was such a salient part of their kind of experience. It was a major cultural event, how it shaped their lives moving forward, what was impacted as a result of the Nazi occupation in Germany. If folks were living in the United States, what kind of impact did that have on them? And we want to encourage and inspire our OLLI community to share that with the next generation, to share what that fear, what that hope was like, what those emotions were associated with the Holocaust. And we really also want to make sure that their memory and their work and their memory is being not only shared with students, but also if they want to write up their experiences, a journal of what it was like to live through such an experience or what it was like to live in the aftermath of such an experience. Our community, the OLLI community really, really has a strong ability to influence our students, our current and next generation's ability to understand the Holocaust in whatever kind of capacity that is, whether that's through personal experience or through kind of growing up in the aftermath of that. Life had definitely changed as a result of World War II and the Holocaust. And we hope that that can help bridge a gap so that our next generation doesn't have this misinformation about the Holocaust, so that they don't think that Americans were unaffected by it. Yeah, I know I've repeated myself a little bit, but our OLLI community really has a strong ability to impact the next generation. And I hope that with a little bit more information and a little bit more context about how we got from an idea to a legislative success, that we can help kind of inspire some of those conversations.
Great and good job. And folks, there you have it. I mean, I think we all know that we need to keep this history in front of ourselves and in front of our young people, particularly. And maybe it's even more important today than it ever has been in the last several decades. You know, you'll want to come and enroll and take part in this very important class. It's a single session class. It's going to be held on Wednesday, October 13th at Temple Shalom from 2 to 4. And so come and learn and maybe even share some stories as well. We look forward to seeing it. And Toby, thank you for offering this class so much.
Thank you.
Okay.